The Jamie Dyer Show.
My guest today is Angie, who's joining us all the way from Florida. Welcome to the podcast, Angie. Tell me, what is your passion?
Thanks for having me. I'm really, really excited to talk to your audience. So basically, for me, it's travel. Anything involving travel, whether it's meeting new people, experiencing new cultures, trying like all different kinds of food, anything involving travel, I could literally talk to you for hours on end all day about it.
I mean, that is, wow, there's a lot to unpack there, isn't there? Um, there,
Yeah.
there really is. How did you get into that? How did that become an interest for you?
Yeah. So I would travel around like with my parents, like up and down the East Coast because I'm originally from Delaware, which is in the Northeast. So we would travel up and down the East Coast and also to Canada because I have family there. So I got a little bit of the travel bug. And then in high school, I took 4 years of French. So that's how I got into like more international travel. But I was kind of looking and seeing like, okay, like I want to travel, but I don't really know like the process of like how you even go about traveling on your own because there's just so many things on Google and then you have to like furrow through them. And I didn't know like anyone that had solo traveled. I had just traveled with my parents. So I'm just kind of like going through high school and college thinking like, okay, like I want to travel, I want to travel. But like I saw also in college as well, like you could do study abroad, but I'm like, I don't have that kind of money. So how can I just do this on my own? So then I actually did all the hours of Google searching, like all the different kind of like resources and everything. And then I just kind of crafted like my own way of being able to travel without like, doing like study abroad, like no travel agents, just essentially being my own travel agent.
There is an art to traveling by yourself because you don't have the comfort of somebody else. You are sat at a cafe or a restaurant by yourself and you see all these stunning views wherever you may be by yourself. That's quite a journey just by yourself, isn't it?
Right. And it's really funny too. I actually like wrote about it today. Um, for my solo traveling, it really started just like kind of doing small steps. So whether it's like going to like a movie theater or like a cafe, like you just said, like on your own and being comfortable like in your own skin to enjoy being with yourself, that just propels you even more for solo traveling because it's like, okay, I can be in a different country, but because I have that like inner confidence and enjoy being on my own, then you can like be on your own. And then when you start meeting people, you can kind of like combine the two elements. So it just makes for a more like fruitful experience in your travels.
Yeah, your reference making a post today. You're on Instagram a couple of times actually. They've kind of got different themes, and I'm sure we'll get to one of them. But one of them is like a food blog type thing of obviously
Right.
food that you see on your travels. I mean, I have so many questions, including how do you get your pictures to look so good?
Yeah. So like I just am really like a perfectionist by nature. So I'm always like kind of just like adjusting like my little angles and stuff. And I usually take maybe like 5 pictures and then I try to like see like which one's the best one. So I look like, okay, like what's the best lighting? Like what's the best angle, like, for taking like the picture itself? Like how can I position the food to like make it look really, really appetizing, but it doesn't look like it's a super like curated post or something. It's actually like you're experiencing the food and the experience like with me. So that's always like what I have in mind like when I'm taking my pictures. I actually want to make it feel like you are along with me in every part of my journey.
Which I think is it's the goal of most people on Instagram, but not always for the right reasons.
Right.
And I mean, we'll talk about the other one. The other one's got more of kind of a businessy end to it, hasn't it?
Right. Yeah, and like even with like the business one, which is the travel one, like I kind of hate it when I see all these Instagram accounts and it's all these influencers and they show you like these beautiful places and they're in the pictures, but it's kind of like, well, what do you do when you're not at those places like taking these curated photos? Like I want to know like what's the pulse of the city? What food is there to eat? Like what kind of activities can I do there? And also, like most importantly, how can I get myself there and not be scrolling endless hours on Instagram. And I just think that's kind of like a problem with like how like Instagram with like travel Instagram, it's like really curated. So like it kind of takes out like the reality of travel and just like makes it this like big fantasy thing that you're kind of like, well, I mean, unless I become an influencer, how can I actually just be able to travel and just enjoy experiences and people type thing?
It is crazy what people are able to do now and share those experiences, as you say. And you're obviously very passionate, enthusiastic about it. But recently, due to all the stuff that has happened with COVID and other things that are going on in the world, has that limited the travel that you've been able to do in any way?
Yeah, so I actually had plans to go to probably like 5 different places this year, and they all had to be canceled because I was just like, okay, like I don't feel safe trying to go to those places. But I think I can take comfort in like the process that I have for like my travel planning. Like I actually booked like a hotel for Boston next year for like a vacation I want to go on. So I think it's just more now, like even if you're not going anywhere, like if you can just kind of like plan like in advance and kind of like stagger out like different parts of your itinerary. So like what I do, I usually book my hotel first and then I book like flights and activities later because I just think it takes like the stress and overwhelm out of like trying to like travel plan and everything. And then it just gives you like more time and flexibility to be able to like save up money, to be able to pay for like all the stuff like to get to your destination and then actually be able to enjoy all of what you want to do when you get there.
And is any of this spontaneous, or is it literally everything is planned?
So it's a mix for me. So usually like I do like plan like a couple things like if I want to go to like a particular cafe because it it looked like really amazing the food on Instagram, or I want to go to like this theater show because like a big time actor is playing in it and they're only going to have it for like this span of time. But then also it's kind of nice. It's like once you get in the city, then you can just be like, okay, like Google search like what is available like events available in the city as it is, or if you go like I love going on walking tours because it gives you a really great idea of a city and you can do it for free usually. So then you can kind of see like, oh yeah, like I didn't think of this. Like I can go here, 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 and here. So it's kind of like a night. It's good to have like a mix of things that you do.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's a thing over in the States, but are you familiar with the idea of the staycation?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I I mean, I don't really call them like staycations, but I actually really love going to Miami, and they have like a special like arts district. So I would always go down there like every weekend and just like go to a cafe, like chill out. They have a really great like setup called Wynwood Walls, where they like feature local artists and you can take pictures. And then after that, like I would usually go to Miami Beach, just like chill out a little bit. So it's nice to do those kind of things as well because you kind of find like little gems in your own city that can kind of remind you of like places that are abroad as well.
Because, I mean, it's important to point out here when we say travel, we don't just mean like far flung corners of the earth, we also mean in your own
Mhm.
backyard, as it were, because sometimes we don't appreciate where we live.
Right. Exactly.
We don't
Yeah,
appreciate where we live.
and I think like whether you're it's like in your own hometown or if you're like traveling like outside of like your country too, I just think like there's always like a big importance on like supporting like local anything because we're so inundated with like so many commercial things and all of that, but like the local people, that's where you see like the real magic because they're so passionate like about like whatever that they're doing, and then that comes out like whether it's like the food or like the artwork, just like that sheer amount of like quality because it's something that they love and they have like such dedication for.
Yeah, I think supporting local is good. And I don't know whether you're familiar with it, but there is a YouTube channel. Are you familiar with the website Delish?
Yes.
Yeah, they have this series on there called Julia Tries Everything. Are you familiar with that?
I
Um,
haven't, but I'm one that
where
tries everything too.
she basically goes to all the chain places and tries everything on the menu. And I was kind of intrigued because for me, whenever I go anywhere, I want to go to not the big places. I want to go to like the little locally sourced, locally owned, kind of get a piece of the local action. But then I suppose there is argument for both sides because chain places are normally cheaper.
Right. And I think kind of like how I go about chains, like if you're going to like a country and you're going to a chain, like get the item that's kind of like unique to that country because it's kind of like, okay, like they have like all like the standard stuff because it's a chain. But like, let's say you're going to Japan or you're going to like Switzerland or something, and they have like kind of like a little twist, like maybe on a dish that's like specific, like, for that country. I would kind of seek those things out because it's like you're in a chain, but you're still like experiencing the culture as well, type thing.
Yeah, I think the obvious example, the one that springs to mind, is McDonald's. They do localized dishes everywhere in any country,
Right.
um,
Exactly.
which is great. I mean, how many places abroad have you been to?
Yes, I've been to Canada, the UK, Switzerland, and Mexico.
Wow, so that doesn't sound like very many, but I'm sure you covered quite a large amount of land.
Right. And I was like doing this like all while being in school and like doing a dietetic internship, a nutrition internship. So grinding like hard, like doing my schoolwork and then like also like mixing in like all my travel.
Which means that you must have been on quite a tight budget.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, how do you manage that? How does that happen? Do you have to be very strict with yourself?
I mean, within reason. Um, like for me, I usually like stay in hostels. I know like everyone gets like all up in arms like about hostels, like they're not safe and everything, but they have a lot of like really great ones out there. So I save a lot of money in that way. And then also like finding lots of like free activities around, like I mentioned, with like walking tours, museum tours. You can always find deals for like different theater things. And then for my food and everything, I am a really big proponent of Google Maps because you can just like look for like what's the best cafe or like bistro or something, because usually those give you a wide variety, but it's not super super expensive. So I just like source those kind of things, like whether it's near my hotel or if I'm going somewhere, like what's the closest like cafe or bistro around there. So you can always like work within a budget. You don't have to feel like, oh my God, like I have to just be like a total like penny hoarder and everything during my vacation.
I mean, there must have been a time during one of your trips where you made a choice that maybe wasn't the best one.
Yeah, I was thinking about this also today. Like um, for a flight, I got like a really cheap price on it, but the flight was super early in the morning. I think like 7 something in the morning. And I had the intention, like, okay, I'm gonna wake up at like 4 or 5 a.m. to catch the train, like, and then go to the airport, be fine. But I actually like almost overslept. So I had to get ready like super, super fast. I had to basically like book it like to the train. And mind you, like this was when I was in Toronto, Canada. So I had like my jacket on and I had, I think, like 2.5 inch heel boots on. And I'm like walking at 5 a.m. trying to get to the train station to go to the airport. And I'm just like, okay, never again. Like budget airlines are really, really good, but this time was really, really bad.
I mean, that's some going, isn't it? I mean, that isn't as bad as I thought. I thought you'd have a bad food experience or something like that. But that's you know, that was pretty bad. No, see, she's shaking her head to indicate that nearly every choice you've made must have been great in some way.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's kind of like if you get lost somewhere or like you just have like those mishaps, like, okay, it's like your first time like going internationally or like domestically somewhere, and you're kind of like, I don't really know like where I'm going type thing. But I've just found like, okay, if you just give me a day or so, I can pretty much like adapt on the fly. But I've never had like any like super, super bad experiences.
Well, I mean, that's good so far. So
So
far.
far,
Yeah.
there's still time yet.
So far. I mean, you've got your two Instagram accounts. Are you kind of have you had any one-to-one meetings with anybody to talk about their travel experiences?
Yeah, so it's really funny because I'm actually like part of like a very active like tennis environment on Twitter. So a lot of like my best friends, I have actually like met them in person, like via from Twitter. So we're just like, okay, like yeah, like we're all like going to Wimbledon or we're all going to like this type of event. Like you want to meet up? And then I like meet up with everybody. So like social media has been really, really great for me, like fostering like those kind of relationships that I probably like would never have thought I would have fostered.
So you've actually been to Wimbledon,
Yeah, twice.
but the question is, you see, the one thing you have to do when you go to Wimbledon, do you know what I'm going to say?
Okay, so you're probably gonna say queuing, and I've actually done regular queuing and overnight queuing.
Nope, that's not what I was thinking. You've got to have strawberries and cream when you go to Wimbledon.
Oh yeah, so especially after like overnight queuing, I'd always get my strawberries and cream and a nice cold Pimm's.
Awesome. Have you been to any other tennis tournaments in the UK, or is it strictly Wimbledon?
So I've been to Wimbledon and the World Tour Finals.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it, when you're able to combine several loves of travel because your other interests must propel where you go to.
Right, exactly. And it's funny because tennis was the thing that propelled me to solo travel in the first place because my favorite player is Roger Federer. One of his favorite tournaments is in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I really want to see him play. So I was like, okay, like I have some money on me. Let me try and plan this trip. So I planned the trip. I stayed with a couple friends like in their hotel. I saw him play twice and I was like, yeah, I just literally did my first like solo trip. Like I can do this probably like around the US and like internationally because I really want to go to Wimbledon too. So then I like did a Wimbledon trip and then it just propelled from there.
I mean, it is the stuff that dreams are made of when you're able to do that and fulfill that and are you planning hopefully when things calm down a little bit to come back to the UK?
I hope so. Yeah, because I have a lot of friends that live in the UK too. So like London just has a very, very special place in my heart. So I always love coming back there.
Yeah, I think the thing about the UK, and I'm sure you'd say the same about the US, is that people assume that everywhere in the country is exactly the same. That everybody talks the same, everybody eats the same food, everybody has the same hobbies. So for the UK, it's everyone drinks tea and has crumpets and talks like a 1950s BBC
Right.
announcer. And for the US, I don't know, it's everybody watches TV and eats TV dinners. You know, it's that type of attitude. But it is different, isn't it? Wherever you go in a country.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was kind of under the impression like just like everywhere in London was like very, very posh and cosmopolitan. But I was like, okay, like, I stayed in I can't speak, Earl's Court first. And I was like, okay, like, yeah, this is beautiful. Like, I love this. And then I stayed in King's Cross and I was like, okay, this is a little bit grungier, but it's still really cool. And then like you go to Wimbledon, you go to Soho, it's like all different kind of things. And it's just really, really cool. To kind of be in those kind of environments, like interact with those people, and then also just like anything with food and culture too. It's just really cool.
And it's like that wherever you go. And that's the beauty of traveling. I mean, unfortunately, I haven't been able to go anywhere very much abroad in the last few years. I have to kind of do a lot of my traveling through TV documentaries.
Right.
usually travel logs. There's some amazing ones on Netflix that I do recommend highly. I mean, have you ever thought about doing that, recording it down in either audio or video form?
I thought about it like a little bit, but like I think I just love kind of being behind the camera more. So like that's why like I just default to pictures, and then also I just really love writing. So I just love like being able to do like captions or like do like blog posts about things as well that I experience.
Well, I mean, as I can say, her Instagram looks absolutely amazing.
Oh,
The
thank
way
you.
that it's laid out and the images that are on there, I've only taken a quick glance. I mean, how many posts per week are you putting up?
Oh, I mean, I think it's maybe like 3 or 4 a week, especially like on the travel one. The food one, it's a little bit more lax now because like I'm not traveling as much. And I mean, sometimes I do stuff like that I cook at home, but I've been like a little bit lazy, so I haven't really posted on there. But yeah, for the travel one, especially, probably like 3, 4 times a week. And then every Thursday on my travel one, I do what's called Travel Tip Thursday. So all aspects of travel are pretty much covered, and I go through like little tips of like things that I've learned over my travels.
So, what do you think? So, say I was setting out thinking about traveling somewhere and I was doing it solo like yourself. What's the first thing that I need to think about?
Ooh, um, I mean, I probably say like maybe like a few things. So location, like where you're going to be, because you want to be safe. Um, I probably say like proximity to the airport because you want to be able to get to your accommodation safely, and then like when you need to leave, appropriate time for that. And then also like you want to have like a solid like budgeting system, and even like before you travel. So it's like you want to have an overall savings account, like where you can just like put your money in and you're like saving throughout the year. And then you want to have like a holding checking account that you can transfer your money from your savings and put in that checking account to hold the money until you go on your trip. And then you want to have like an actual like traveling card that you're going to be using mostly for your trip. Um, that kind of thing, because like if you have like a system in place, then you can make sure that you can like pay for all the parts of your trip, and then like you still have money to enjoy like all your activities. So it's not like kind of if you're saving or so like throughout the year, and then you think like, oh crap, like I have these bills to pay, then you start using the money, and then you have like no money for traveling. Kind of defeats the purpose. So you want to have like um a system in place for budgeting as well.
Well, there's some top tips there, and even if I don't end up traveling, I'm sure someone else will off the back of that. Tell us where people can find out more about you.
Yeah, so I mean, my website that's coming soon, but like mostly I live on Instagram
Hmm.
at my two accounts. So the travel account is at the Flexitarian Travels, and my food account is at the
Hmm.
Flexitarian Digest.
Awesome. Well, I do recommend going to check it out. And I say, Angie, thank you very much for appearing on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me.